Hello, and welcome back to our little path. My name is Amanda, and I am going to be talking all things field trips today. So what it's like planning field trips, what kind of field trips to look for, and most importantly, how to kind of build a field trip co-op or group so that you can get the best prices on the different places that you go. If you are interested in learning how to plan your field trips and form a field trip group, stick around. So before we jump in today, I just want to thank you guys for clicking on the video. I hope that you find the information today helpful and can lead to a lot of fun for you and your kids in your homeschooling journey. I'd also love if you would click on that subscribe button below. So if you are new here or you've been watching some of my videos but have yet to subscribe, please do that. I would love for you to join me. And if you hit that bell, you'll also be notified every time that I post a new video and it goes live. Okay, so field trips. Field trips are some of my favorite parts of homeschooling, and I thought it was very appropriate to be doing a field trip thing as all the other kids are going back to school. So as kids that go to brick and mortar schools are going back into school, it's like the Christmas time for homeschoolers because things aren't busy anymore, relatively speaking. So, I mean, you can go to your library and it's not as busy. You can go to your aquarium and it's not as busy. You can go to your zoo and it's not as busy. This is why homeschooling is so fun, is because you can actually go to places where they're not crowded and busy like they are at Christmas time or summer break or spring break, fall break, all of that. Which I recommend don't go to places or don't go to the common places during those times, but I'll get into that. So field trips is one of our favorite things. We do field trips on a variety of things. Sometimes we try to tie them into something that we're learning about at that time. Sometimes it's just a really great way to get out of the house and do something different, because we all get a little stir crazy being inside, and field trips provide that great opportunity to get yourself out of the house and do something different. So some of the different types of field trips, if you're kind of at a loss of like where to start, some of the basic places are things like just going on a hike, finding different local trails and things like that around you. Obviously all the big like academic stuff. So the science center, the museums, the zoos, the aquariums, all of those places are really great for academic type of field trips, especially if you want to tie in things that you're learning. A lot of the like zoos, maybe not the zoos, a lot of the like museums, science center, things like that run different special, seasonal, like extra, what are they called? Not activities, but oh man, I was on a roll. So the museums and the science center, I know like at least here in Phoenix, they run different themes. So like when we went to the science center last, they were starting like their astronaut theme, and it was like a special exhibit. That's the word. I knew I would find it. So the exhibits. You can kind of maybe cater some of like a mini unit study before you go to some of the exhibits that are happening at those kind of academic settings. You can also just like go to the grocery store, plan for your kids. Maybe your kid is learning how to like balance their money. So, or nobody balances a checkbook anymore. But if you wanted to teach them that process of like, okay, you have this much money you're gonna be spending and balance a checkbook, you know, you can take them to the grocery store, take them to Walmart and plan something that way. Or if you're doing a project in the house and you're, I don't know, redoing a piece of furniture, or you're building something for the kids, they can help you plan different ways on like how much you're gonna spend on materials and things like that, how much time you think it's gonna cost you to make the item. So you can kind of just spin it any way you want, which is the beauty of homeschooling. You guys need a field trip? I don't know, go to the grocery store for that day, get out of the house. So I don't necessarily always call those field trips, but I know people who have to log hours will try to use that as some of their hours. And I think it's totally justifiable because life skills are necessary, so why not? And then my other type of field trip is definitely not what I'm gonna like expand on here, but I want to throw that out. It's like when you travel with your family, I think it's really important to look for opportunities for learning in different areas. So last year we went to Ohio and we're visiting family, and we went to a museum for the day while we were there because it's not something that we would typically get to do. And then we also got to see some really cool historical parts of the area that we were in. And then also we've gone even just like a couple hours north. They have different museums and things like that in one of the bigger towns up north. And so we've definitely like hit up a museum and stuff while we're there, just to kind of give the kids a couple different hours of doing something different, and they're not in the car and they get a break. So I would say when you're traveling, try to look for things in the cities that you're going to, especially if you know you're gonna have some downtime, but you wanna be able to, I don't know, give the kids a different experience. That can be really fun as well. So I'm not gonna go too much into that, like traveling field trips, because we don't travel very often, so I don't have a whole lot of tips on that. But I will say my tip is kind of like do a Google search of the area of where you're gonna be traveling and look into that. But the bulk of this video is going to be on how to plan and form a homeschool field trip co-op. Now, co-op, group, whatever you want to call it, this past year when everything was shut down, I ended up forming a co-op group for field trips because I knew that our kids were still going to want to get out. We weren't having co-op, so that kind of we've moved on in our life, and we're actually not even doing co-op again this year. We've just decided to stick with our field trip co-op because for us, really what it is getting the kids out and being able to see their friends, but also do things that, you know, kind of provide not only like that socialization, but provide some learning opportunities as well. So I would say first off, how to form your co-op group. If you are new to homeschooling, cannot stress enough to get connected, whether it's on Facebook, through your local church, or looking on the homeschoolingmom.com. She has a list of all different states, like people submit to them for different co-ops and things like that, and groups that have been formed. So if you're not on Facebook, that's a great way to kind of look for things. If you're on Facebook, I would say start like searching within Facebook for your city, your state, and, you know, homeschooling co-op. So Phoenix homeschooling co-ops, that kind of stuff. And then you can find through Facebook different groups on there to get to know people or to form groups that way. The homeschoolingmom.com has a whole list of resources. I'll tag the main page below of where you can find different groups and co-ops and their information and how to contact them. So that's a really good way too. Or like I said, with church, you can put something in your bulletin if you don't have a group of people that you know, or even in a couple different bulletins at different churches, just kind of like, you know, trying to start a homeschooling co-op or things like that. I know that your church community can be a really great resource for that as well. We have fortunately kind of fallen into a pretty good group that we were already in. So if you're already in some kind of co-op that's more academic based, not field trip based, or even if you just have a homeschool co-op that does like a park day and things like that, you can try to get a couple different families together to be a part of it. I would say when you're forming that, you want to talk to the families about if they're joining, the different goals and stuff that they would like to see. So you can ask them different places that they'd like to go that year. You can ask them what day of the week is best for them, and then try to pick the best day of week that most of the families would be able to join in on the field trip. And then also, how often do you want to be taking field trips? Do you want to be doing something every month, every other month? I feel like weekly would probably be really busy, but we do ours once a month and that works perfect. We have it on a set day of the month every month so that people can kind of plan that into their schedule ahead of time. And then I would say find out where they want to go, date and time, and then also how far they want to drive. So most of the people in our co-op live in probably like a 15-20 mile radius. And so we kind of took like a general spot in Phoenix and said, from this point in Phoenix, how far would you want to drive? Do you want to drive 30 minutes only, 45 minutes, an hour and a half? And so everyone kind of put in their input so you can plan places within that region. So most co-ops probably aren't going to be like, let's all take a 4-hour day trip to go hiking somewhere. But if it's, you know, within that hour and a half range of where you live, depending on how close to a big city you are, you know, it may fit different for each where you're located. Ours personally, I think we have like a hour-ish range, and some people are a little more flexible if it's a different kind of hike and unique. So yeah, but I would say form your group. And I want to say when you're forming your group too, is like try to make sure that your group will have at least 10 people. And I say 10 kids, not necessarily 10 people, because a lot of places that I've come in contact with, they want, if you're going for like a school rate, they want at least 10 kids. Now, if you're just going for a group rate, then it's usually 10 people, and that's fine. But if you want to try and get the homeschool or the school rates, like public school rates, then you're going to want to at least have 10 kids minimum. And so that can be sometimes kind of tricky depending on, but you can always go for the group rates if you can't meet the requirements of the school rates. So definitely worth it. So when you're looking to plan different places, I have a couple different tips on how you can find different ideas for school trips, because, you know, if you live near a big city, you're going to have probably some type of museum, different science centers, art museums, things like that. But there's also some like really unique smaller museums that can make for a fun outing as well. So I will list these and link these below, but homeschoolbuyerscoop.org, they have a free resource list of every state, and actually they have Canada as well too, which I thought was really cool, of different field trip ideas. So they have field trip ideas, whether it's hiking, whether it's some kind of like academic, or just unique different resources that way. Theirs is pretty extensive. I looked at a couple states to just kind of like get an idea of what they offer, and they offer a fairly extensive list. And then the homeschoolmom.com also has field trip resources listed per state as well. General Google searches are great, especially if you're maybe smaller town and you're just looking for something more local. You can look for things like that. And then looking up your state parks. So like Arizona, we have Arizona State Parks, I think it's .com. But they even have on there like kid-friendly hikes. So you can find different kid-friendly hikes from your state local or your state parks website. And then if you're on Instagram, Instagram has a lot of helpful resources, probably more so for like the bigger cities. But like Arizona has Phoenix with Kids, and they are like, whenever we get like a really good field trip last year, everyone was like, Amanda, how'd you find this place? And I'm like, Instagram. I am not coming up with these ideas all on my own. Like, I'm totally stealing ideas from this Instagram account that I follow. And it really is like, they do a lot of like unique things, even some of the smaller stuff. Like they'll just do like, they have like a list of, like on the Phoenix with Kids, they have a list of splash pads that are really great around the valley, and like different, they like rate parks in the valley and things like that. So I'm sure that most of the major cities probably have some kind of blogger or Instagram person that has that kind of stuff. So if you're in a smaller town, I'm sorry. Maybe you should be the one to start it on your Instagram, and you should try that. But those are where I get most of my ideas from. I try to, since I'm the one planning the places, I kind of took an inventory this summer of where everyone kind of wanted to go. And then just kind of tried to plan it that way. And then like looking at pricing and things like that. So, yeah, I think that the homeschool group has been so much fun, and it's definitely worth a little bit of effort. We just have like a big text group message, but you could probably be more professional and do things like, you know, an email or stuff like that. But we just send out a text message at the beginning of every month, and I give everyone about a week to reply, and then I can schedule it once I've gotten everyone's reply. Not everyone ends up coming every time because that's life, but we usually get enough to hit those group rates at some of the bigger places. And it's actually really cool because if you can hit the school rates, and a lot of times you have to call. So like my big tip is like, if they have an online thing to fill out to book, call first and let them know like, hey, we're a homeschooling co-op. We would love to like what are your school rates for homeschoolers? And a lot of times you can get a cheaper discount doing that than just like filling out their form, because just as like a homeschool co-op, I don't necessarily have something super official. A lot of times it'll be like, tell me your district, tell me your school name, tell me this. And I'm like, or if they want to know like what grade level your kids are, I'm like, birth to, you know, 7th grade, 8th grade. So, yeah, it's a little bit easier if you call and like discuss with the person who plans that. So definitely utilize that tip if you're looking to start a group. And then for older kids, sometimes what we will do is I will print out a lot of the places that we've gone, whether it's the zoo or like the academic kind of settings. They have a lot of stuff on their websites that have like school resources. So I've done, like, we went to the zoo and I printed out like they had like different age levels of like finding the different animals and like keeping track of who you've seen and things like that. Not every kid does it. And most of the time we go without any materials and just have fun, and the kids can explore and things like that. I try not to like push the kids too much. Like, let's go read every sign. Let's go do this. Like, I try to keep it very laid back, relaxed, and fun. But there are definitely those opportunities, especially if you know you're gonna have some older kids who maybe have been to the zoo 500 times. If they want something different, you know, they can kind of engage in crossword puzzles and things like that, or maybe related to the zoo educational information. So that's a good tip. Also, I would say also for older kids, we don't have a whole lot of older kids in our field trip group, so we're not quite there yet. But if you have middle schoolers or even high schoolers, I'm a part of like one of our Facebook groups for the area that I live. And they do field trips to things like going to the, they have like the iFly, so like the indoor skydiving. They did a field trip to that. They did a field trip for, what's it called? It's like those rooms that you go into and you have to solve the puzzle to get out. Escape rooms. So the escape rooms, they've done one for a couple field trips for the escape rooms. So you can get pretty creative, especially if you have the older kids. It doesn't always have to be the zoo or the science center, things like that. You can do kind of funner activities that maybe you can't go just as a family because you need more of that group setting or that group rate. So yeah, definitely, I can't wait till we're older. My kids are older, because it'll be fun to kind of plan things like that. So I feel like it was a little all over the place, but I hope that maybe I inspired you to start a homeschool group, because getting a discount on all these places is totally worth it, at least in Phoenix, because a lot of places are so expensive. There's one zoo that's my favorite zoo here, and we never, ever go, because even with a coupon, it's still outrageously expensive. So getting a discount on that, like, paying instead of $40 for an adult, you're paying like $12. It's huge. So, especially with families with, you know, a lot of kids, that can save a lot of money. So I hope that I can inspire you to start a group in your area. And if you have any questions about homeschool groups, field trip groups, or just field trip ideas, let me know in the comments below. I would love to talk to you about it. I hope that you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you later.